A very good afternoon to all of you, whoever is here. I'm glad that you're here. And since we took the stage almost 10 minutes ago, expecting more people to join in, and already started chatting up, which is quite natural for someone, I think, who comes with such rich experiences in their lives. I have illustrious women on both sides of me, and I'm so honored to be sharing this stage with all four of you. The conversation today is a very interesting, though a very broad topic to talk and touch upon within the next 35 to 40 minutes, but we'll try to do our best and also take some questions from the audience. There are women, there are men, and it'll be interesting to also know your perspectives on gender, on identity, on place, especially your women, the South Asian women. To bring in their own perspectives, we have writers, we have people who have been covering women, telling their stories, and all of us, while come from a slightly privileged background, many of the women across South Asia, South Asia, are facing a lot of challenges still. Why don't we start with, and my first question would be to you, Maupia, why don't we start with the history? The history, how it has treated women, how do you think, especially the medieval history that you cover and write in, how did that part of history treat its women in comparison to probably the current times in Bharat, in India?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. We have a very interesting topic today: the role of women in, as a gender, in their place in society and in history, as well as their identity. So, and we are dealing with South Asian women primarily. Now, in ancient India, as we all know, was in some ways, a lot of people claim that ancient India, women, the role of women, or rather the place of women, was more, it was more progressive setup because, the women were not covering their heads in under a veil. They were, dressing up more audaciously, and these are the kind of beliefs, or rather maybe a few images that we have seen of ancient India. So when was it that things changed? And it is believed that with the Muslim invasion, the coming of Islam into India, the Parda system came into use. I would rather not go into that area. I would rather like to talk about a few women who have made their place, who have carved for themselves a place which is more or less at par with men, and that is mostly in terms of ruling. So we've had women in ancient India as well who ruled, but then we've had Razia Sultan, we've also had Rudrama Devi of Warangal, we've had there are in South India there have been women. Then there is of course Rani Durgavati in Madhya Pradesh, central India. And in later times, we have the very famous personality of Rani Lakshmibai. So, I would say, what was your question again about?
How has from the medieval times, what was the position of women in the medieval times, and how much of it has really changed in the contemporary times? Especially then, after you've answered, I'll bring in Mona Lisa into it to bring.
Yeah, so of course, times have changed, especially so in the last 100 years, or rather I would say 50 years, and women are coming out in the open. But then different areas, women have emerged in different, every region in India, I'm specifically talking about India, and every region in India has had their own has had their own heroines, I would say, and there has been a section of the community which is still very much not so out in the open, and For instance, Rani Lakshmibai, right from childhood, my book, The Queen's Last Salute, has talked about her and has talked about another female protagonist who was her companion. So she was not really of royal blood, yet she was groomed to be a soldier. So, Rani Lakshmibai believed that a woman could fight as well as a man. So, in terms of her skills as a warrior, she in fact raised an entire contingent of female soldiers. But what we probably do not know very well is that Rani Lakshmibai was a fantastic diplomat. She was so good at negotiations. She was so good at drafting letters. So the entire focus has been on her being a warrior. But then these are the aspects of women that are normally ignored. Normally, put aside. And at the most, either she'll be a warrior or a ruler or, an underdog. But there are so many other skills that a woman has, which has now, fortunately, for the modern woman, it is coming out thanks to a lot of social exposure, thanks to women themselves, and how they fought against all kinds of hurdles, and the power of resilience. I think that is really important. And in fact, I was just telling my esteemed panelists here a little while ago that I just read Aruna Roy's book on personal is political, in which she talks about her stint in the village of Tilonia in Rajasthan, where she has seen extremely powerful women in their domain. It's not that they have to come out to be a Rani Lakshmibai or an Indira Gandhi. In their own communities, how they have created and carved a space not only for themselves but for their fellow community members. So women are struggling everywhere. Women are trying to break through the Lakshman Rekha or the limitations imposed upon them, and it has been there always. It's just now I think we are more aware of, and probably the numbers have increased. Women are more courageous because of education, because of financial independence. So that kind of a thing, I think these are the factors that have helped women come out more in larger numbers now in the open.
Mona Lisa, Mopia brings in the aspect of the social and the economic empowerment that a lot of women have now, come to expose themselves to, and because of that, I think women are finding feet in all aspects of life. They are making a name and finding recognition in whole lot of industries today. But there are still women, and in this very country and outside of it, who are marginalized, who continue to suffer. But the interesting point that you also made right outside this discussion, before we went into this discussion, was something which we all agreed, which Mopia has just brought up, and I also shared an anecdote about the women in their own domains being very powerful, taking decisions, even if probably they don't fit into the stereotypical powerful women, who can voice their opinions. But there are communities where even if they come from an economically weaker section of the society, they are continuing to voice their opinions and hold the ground. Like in Uttarakhand, from where my parents hail and I come from, women are, they have a mind of their own. While they will be working throughout the day, toiling hard and running the family and outside matters as well, as the men go around playing cards and drinking, still they have a mind of their own, and they will ensure that they run things the way they can, and they will fight back if anything comes to them. But since you have a very rich experience of working with women from the marginalized section, from the tribal areas, how do you view in the current times the situation of women, especially from the non-preferential backgrounds, the backgrounds who are not privileged? How do you view that in the country?
First of all, let me clarify that I do not work with any women sectors and all. I'm simply a writer. But initially, because I was very privileged, in my family there was no gender issues. All were treated equally, and no financial issues also. If you study well, you earn for yourself. But when I came to know about unwed mothers in Odisha, in tribal belts, I was thinking what kind of issue is that? Unwed mothers. Why there were 4,000 unwed mothers in tribal areas. Then I went to tribal areas that time to find out what happened. Because they are free, women are placed equally with men. Because of industrialization, they were exposed to work together. Men and women, they were working, but the thing is that women were for the first time, they were exploited by these contractors and all that. Then they left, then they produced children fatherless. Then they had a very tough life. So that was my first exposure to women in trouble. Then after 20 years, when I went to the same places where tribal women were very tenacious, they are very dignified and all, I saw for the first time orphanages, something I couldn't accept, because they do not abandon their children. Even if they are fatherless, the women were capable of looking after them. Now, even the women are leaving their children. Why? Because exploitation is too much for them, and single-handedly they cannot do anything. And financially they are suffering because their land has been taken by the government, by the industrialists, by the contractors, and their forests are gone. How do they survive? So that was for the first time I was open to new things. Then I was thinking, whenever I travel, I always look at women all over India. Then when I went to Gujarat, Ranap, Kutch, for the first time I was exposed to this salt extraction. We know about it, but we don't know that even if you are married, newly married, men and women, both have to go to the salt extraction, because women struggle more. They work 10 hours a day. Imagine in the salt pan, it is women who are struggling. And you know what happens after that, because the salt enters into their body. They don't have the water, they have many cycle problems, and they cannot defend themselves, and they don't have any option. They cannot choose like we can, because they're married, they have to be there for 10 hours. It is women who are suffering, and we don't have actually any law to prevent that and to protect them, to give them any medical facilities. That was not all. Then in Maharashtra, when I traveled, then I came to know about the sugarcane factories. You know, it is women who suffer, and it is like mandatory, because you have to come with your family, and the wife is exploited and she gets pregnant. Then the problem is double, and to prevent that she has to work. What is happening? They are removing her uterus so that she cannot get pregnant. This heinous acts made me think what we are talking about, and slowly I discovered things like water wives. Do you know about water wives? In water scarce places, women are hired as water wives. That means they will carry water. That is the difficult part. And they don't have any social sanctity, and nobody thinks about them. There is no law to prevent that. Even tiger wives in Sundarbans. We know that tigers attack in Sundarbans, and the men have to face this attack things, and they die. And what happens to their wives, widows? Lots of them. There is no law to prevent that. We are talking about dowry burning and dowry deaths and rape cases. We are concerned only about that. But there are lakhs of women. They really don't have any choice. It's not a social stigma, nothing. But the thing is that they are the marginalized, and they are the characters for my stories, because what else I can do? I don't have any power. Only I have to write poignantly about their sorrows, their sadness, if I can. But at the same time, I always try to find such women, despite these calamities in their life, who stand up to and prove themselves, and then they are the queen of their surrounding. They change lives, not only their own family, but they change life of others. So that is very inspiring for me, and that is why I keep traveling all over India, wherever I can. And mostly I am drawn to ordinary people, be it the housemaid in my house, even my neighbor, and I find such women really truly fascinating.
Mona Lisa, I will disagree that, what can I do? I can only tell their stories. I think you have the power of telling stories, which is very important. Documenting stories that bring forth their ordeal, and at the same time the keen observation to be able to still find things that make them resilient, make them continue to smile and continue with their duties. But this is shocking. I mean, the kind of details that you are sharing, I think we women who come from a certain class at times don't even realize, when we talk about feminism, we don't even realize that, there is a large part of women who have been contributing economically as well to their families, facing such ordeals where, they are facing health issues and they do not come from such economically sound backgrounds to not have to exercise their option or
They
their
don't have any
choice.
choice, yeah. They
You
don't
know,
have any choice.
I here I'd like to interrupt because I'd like to narrate a small, very interesting incident. I was in Arunachal Pradesh, so we were going up to a place called Tawang. Now, Tawang town is a small town. There's a small town square, and there are shops around. So on that particular day, it had snowed for the first time in that season, and this was at about 11,000 feet. Okay, so all the shops were closed, and suddenly we got the aroma of momos. Hot momos. So we decided, okay, let's stop by, but we saw a small cafe. You won't believe it, when we went into the cafe, there was nobody in that marketplace that particular evening. It was about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. There was one lady who came, very beautiful lady, her hair tied up like this, and she was wearing this sarong kind of a thing. Petite, very pretty lady. She came up to us and took our order. Then, and it was a small restaurant which had about 5-6 maximum tables. And then she took our order. She served us. I was going to the washroom on the way. I saw her, like her kitchen was like one of our home kitchens. Probably her, drawing room had been converted into a cafe. There was no sign of a man or another human being. It was 5 in the afternoon, evening. She was cooking our meal, and there was a Blender's Pride bottle kept next to her. So at that time of the evening, she was taking one swig and she was cooking, and she billed us, she served us, she cooked, and everything single-handedly, and then the restaurant got all filled up. Single-handedly for the next hour and a half, I think we were there. Not one other human being came to help her. She was doing everything herself. And this is in Arunachal Pradesh,
I think Northeast has a lot of such examples. I think women from Northeast
Carry
are
cookeries around.
Absolutely, absolutely. But this is a good time to bring in a slightly external perspective in terms of the region. We were talking about India so far, and we've got 2 women on this panel who come from, on this side of me is Kanchana, who comes from Sri Lanka, and on this side I have Suman, who comes from Nepal. Let me begin with you, Suman. I think these are times where, as I started the conversation with, a lot is happening around in the world. And even for women, the definition of feminism is changing. How women are viewing themselves, voicing their opinions, exercising their rights is also changing. While a lot of us are privy to that change, we are experiencing those changes, there is a large part which still, is yet to get exposed to such changes. How are the women in Nepal coping up with this kind of change? What is their condition like? Is it similar to what we have so far discussed, or there is something starkly different from what it is for us in India?
Thank you so much for your question. Good evening, all of you. Yeah, in Nepal, women are considered still a second citizen. Women are suppressed because we are practicing patriarchal society, and in that society, I think in India also, there women has to go to her husband's home, and the environment is totally different and totally changed, and she has to adjust there, isn't it? And yeah, as a writer, I especially raise that sort of discrimination in terms of what is called that employment, in terms of gender role. That sort of discrimination is still prevail in our country. And especially I belong to Kathmandu. In Kathmandu, there are so many women who are practicing and living their lavish type of life. I mean, they are enjoying. There is no more gender inequalities to some extent, but in terms of their what is called that thinking pattern, in terms of their practicing general belief, because of what is called that religion, cultural influences. These all are making them they are socially depressed, I mean discriminated. So for that they have to leave, and in that condition they are practicing that sort of what is called that, they are feeling they are women, we are women, something like that, isn't it? And as a writer, I am raising their voice, and I make female are quite, I create a strong, I try my best to create them strong, because while the reader read about them, they will feel motivated that women also can do lots of think like men. You know, recently Sunita Williams she is an astronaut, she spent 9 months in the space. I mean, I will give that sort of example through my article, through my story, so that women will motivate with that sort of example, and they also avoid the feeling of that discrimination, and for that they have to internally build themselves that I can do. Yeah, social injustice is there, social discrimination is there, but I have to go through out of this frame. That sort of feeling they have to create by themselves. That sort of feeling they have to create by themselves. For that, I generally write to motivate them that women are stronger. They are not much what is called weak sex, like that sort of feeling they have to bring themselves. But yeah, in Nepal there is gender discrimination, because I have already told you that is the patriarchal society, and we have to go through lots of discrimination. Though women are raising voice, there is lots of women who are creating their place by themselves, isn't it? Yeah, that sort of situation is prevailing in our country.
There's a very interesting common thread that I can bring up from here, but before I do that, and that is on how you interpret your women as from a point of strength. But I'll come to each one of you to ask you about that. But before that, Kanchana, I would like you to probably, so we get a perspective that in Nepal, it's a heavily patriarchal society. In India, yes, there is patriarchy, but there are pockets of in our country which are matriarchal. So probably a lot of us may not, and a lot of it also depends on the social class that we come from. How are women placed in Sri Lanka? Especially, because that's one of the very few countries who had a president, a woman in the president's role. How are women placed in Sri Lanka?
So, Lipika, I would like to start my answer with this quote. So, I'd like to give something from literature. So, when it comes to Sri Lanka, the history of Sri Lanka starts with an invasion. It's like that. I think some of you might have heard of King Vijaya. So, Vijaya is from India. So, he had invaded India, and that way only we have Sri Lanka has got the set of kings. So before that, I would like to read this. So all these details are included in a chronicle called Mahavansha. So Mahavansha is the meticulously kept historical chronicle of Sri Lanka until the period of Mahasena of Anuradhapura. It was written in the style of an epic poem written in the Pali language, which Pali is also a gift we have received from India. It relates the history of Sri Lanka from its legendary beginnings up to the reign of Mahasena of Anuradhapura, covering the period between the arrival of Prince Vijaya. So, from Prince Vijaya from India to his reign, and later updated by different writers. I want you to pay attention to this part. It was first composed by a Buddhist monk named Mahanama at the Mahavihara temple in Anuradhapura. So, when it comes to my answer to your question, so that we say that the history starts with Vijaya, but actually history starts with Kueni. So if you have heard of Kueni, that Kueni is related to Vijaya because it is said that Vijaya could conquer Ceylon, the Tambapanni, due to the help he received from Kueni. So Queen is viewed from different perspectives. But when it comes to Mahavansha, how Queen has been viewed is that she has been victimized in the Mahavansha. So she is portrayed as someone who betrayed her family and community. But recently, when I look at history, I realize that no, this shouldn't be like that. Queen has been a warrior. She has been the person who had been looking after the country, which means even by then, even before the invasion of Prince Vijaya, I mean a man, I don't see him as some other person from another country, but instead I see him as a man. So when it comes to Queen, she has been safeguarding the country, protecting the country, and fighting for country. And she's well equipped with all the. She had the capacity to learn all the. What do you call that? She was educated with the things which had been common in those days. Yes, when it comes to love, why don't we see it in the aspect of that she helped the person who she loved? Or who knows that whether the right history has been written, even though we accept this as our chronicle. Who knows that if Vijaya defeated Queni and in a way, or if Queni hadn't helped him, sometimes Queni might have not helped him. But this writer has written about her as a betrayer. And she has been victimized. We sympathize with her. I don't see a reason to sympathize with Queni. Queni has been a strong woman, and women come from a strong lineage of blood. Then again, when it comes to women in power, the first female prime minister has been produced from Sri Lanka. It's Sirimava Bandaranaike. Yes, we accept that she's from that privileged family, but still that in a region where women has been suppressed, a woman rose in years. So later on, her daughter became the president of the country. It means that in most of the Sri Lankan accept women as equal people, that if we accept someone as our president, it means that we are ready to be led by her, not by the gender, but by the qualities, potential and capabilities. So that is there. Even nowadays, our current prime minister is a woman, and she is very capable of being in the politics. The misunderstanding people have about women in power is like that they have a misjudgment about women, thinking that they are not knowledgeable. The reason for that is, let's say that most of the genders are stereotyped into several job categories. When we are in different job categories, we don't want to be informed about the other areas. When the roles have been divided among the genders, sometimes the people, those who didn't want to know about politics, they didn't pay attention to politics. That's why women didn't have that knowledge. It's not because they failed to understand anything or they didn't have the capacity. It's because there was no need to get that knowledge. But nowadays, I think women are more informed, and the way women have been portrayed in Sri Lanka is actually acceptable, and we can be proud of it, because that otherwise, yes.
So what you're saying is very, I mean, if we talk about how, Suman narrated the condition of women in Nepal, unlike that, it's quite. The sense of equality is much prevalent in Sri Lanka, is what you're saying.
Yes, because
wonderful. Okay.
Because Sri Lankans, I don't think that Sri Lankans have a way of discriminating men and it means people based on their gender. When it comes to people from underprivileged families, again that depends on their education, the level of education they have received. Most of the educated men, especially nowadays, I see that they don't
discriminate, so to say, in terms of the kind of job roles one has to have
yes,
at home.
Yes.
So that's quite similar to what we are experiencing in India, where a certain say the upper middle class families where both the husband and wife are working, men are at least the new age men are, becoming more and more adjusting to the fact that while they both have to step out, not the one person does not come home to do the home chores. He also has to equally share. It's a very interesting point you make about politics, because I enjoy politics, and my views about politics are very loud and clear on social media whenever I post, which is very interestingly of huge discomfort to a lot of people, especially if my views are not in line with what they expect me to be saying. There I come to this aspect of, your women, the portrayal of the kind of women that you have, of the Ranis and the empresses who were very sound with all skills, and running empires needed them to be politicking also. They need to be politically sound, they need to be strategically, warfare wise, every way they had to be sound. Tell us something about how you view that, how do you view them in terms of such strategies? I mean, were they equal to their male counterparts, or were they better in a lot of ways because they had a wider experience of things other than maybe what men handled? We all handle the home politics very well.
So I will primarily speak of two of my protagonists. One is, of course, Rani Lakshmibai, and one is Bhagmati. Now, they are complete contrasts. When I come to Rani Lakshmibai, she's a real historical figure, as we all know, just a little less than 200 years ago. Right. So Rani Lakshmibai was a very different kettle of fish. Okay. She firstly grew up with the boys, so she was a tomboy to begin with. Secondly, she was extremely skilled, and she was extremely, a very wise, a very fair woman. So it is believed that under her rule, which was for a very short period, Jhansi probably prospered more than under her husband's rule. So she, like I said earlier, she was a fantastic diplomat. She wrote letters, political, diplomatic letters extremely well. In fact, when she had she had employed a British lawyer to draft her letters. After a point, she got so disgusted by the way he was drafting the letters, she said, "You just go, I'll draft my own letters." And the British, Lord Dalhousie included, he used to be so scared the moment he heard, whenever he used to hear Rani Lakshmibai has sent a letter. The British were so scared of her, and they have been known to comment that when she died on the battlefield, that she was probably the only man in the entire force. Okay, so she was as brave, as smart, and she was also very prudent when it came to dialogue, communication with the British. So actually she was sitting on that side of the veil, that side of the parda, like all Indian women, Asian women do normally, in congregations. And it is said that the British found her attractive, but she wore her sari in a way that was sensuous but not titillating. She was very aware of her feminine power, and she knew how to use it without any scandal, without any negative repercussions. But at the same time, she was not a person seeking mercy or seeking refuge because she was a woman. She never misused her gender with the British. I mean, she was equal to any man. So that is Rani Lakshmibai on one hand. She was just the perfect ruler to combat the British, who were probably the most powerful force in the world at that time. When we come to a lady like Bhagmati, I'll just give you a short introduction whom Bhagmati was. She is known to be the queen of the 5th Golconda ruler, the Qutub Shahi ruler, Muhammad Quli Qutub Shah. It is remarkable to begin with that Bhagmati is the only queen and only wife of a medieval Muslim monarch. There must have been something about that. Unfortunately, her undoing was her birth, her origins. Her origins are a little hazy. Some say she was a Banjaran, some say she was a Devadasi, some say she was a courtesan. Now, a Devadasi's role in medieval India, as a lot of us know, was again, you can say, was, I wouldn't say powerful, but semi-powerful, because they played an important role in temple, administration, and they were very well respected. and looked after by the temple administration and the people in general. But with the coming of the Muslims and then the Europeans, their role declined, their importance declined, and they, they were not patronized anymore. Temples were not patronized, temples were broken and all that. So they resorted to prostitution. So, attaching themselves to wealthy Indian men or even Europeans. Okay, so now Bhagmati is supposed to be one of them, which is why Muhammad Quli's own people at that time, who were primarily Persians, they have removed her name completely, erased her name completely from the history of the dynasty. Now, a queen, but it is not that they have not given importance to the other woman in that dynasty who was her daughter. So here, you may say that, she's a Hindu and he was a Muslim. No, Muhammad Quli's mother was also a Hindu. So the question of religion didn't appear here. It was the question of class. So again, we go back to that class thing, and she was known to be a good dancer. She was known to be she was educated. She was beautiful. She knew everything about the arts and, so you can say she was a perfect woman. Yet, she's been wiped out from history. So I myself have wondered, what is it that makes women, what is it that, how should I put it, that, women, what kind of women are venerated? What kind of women are remembered? It is not to do with whether they were strong or weak. It is to do, I feel, to a certain extent, women who have been formidable in some way or the other, who have threatened the existing spectrum and the existing social norms in some way or the other. I feel these are the women who are, while they have, they have been remembered, they have also been feared. So, if you have that power to remove that person. Like Akbar did in case of Anarkali. Now, you may say Anarkali was a quasi-mythical character, but that is for another time, because I believe she existed. So Bhagmati was very much there because contemporary travelers have written about her, have talked about her. The city of Hyderabad was earlier called Bhagnagar. So why was it changed later? So a lot of things are there. So why was she removed? And similarly, why was Rani Lakshmibai remembered? So, there are a lot of contradictions in this topic.
It's actually an extension to what even Kanchana said, that, we have been telling stories of women and portraying them. It's kind of a mental subjugation, I feel. By continuously bombarding in our stories that women are weak, they never led anything, the powerful women were very conveniently removed from the pages of history. Even up until very recent times, women were always told to be the beaten ones, the ones who, are fighting the patriarchal setup in the society. But very rarely, and this is where, I would like Suman, you and Mona Lisa both to, because you are the ones who first said that even with all the troubles and all the problems, we continue to tell very positive stories about women. And that is, I think, is a remarkable feat in itself, because, I think till the time we don't pour it into pages and tell the stories in the way we want the world to view them, that, even with all the challenges, it's a way of overcoming challenges. If you look at, the stories that come from it, even with constant pushing back and, subjugation, we keep fighting back. That's the resilience we come from, we bring forth. Suman, you tell me, when you tell these stories, has it ever occurred to you that, I may be just crossing that line of
That Lakshman Rekha.
Yeah, that Lakshman Rekha of, doing justice to the women who are actually facing problems by shifting the focus of the women so what happens is, we always as a writer, feel that it's our responsibility to send out a positive message, like you do through your stories. Do you feel sometimes at the back of your mind that there is a certain Lakshman Rekha you cannot cross when you are telling, or you're converting a positive, a story into a positive ending, so to say?
Thank you. We are beta generation now, isn't it? We will remain 75 more years. So, in ancient time, women are considered weak body, weak citizen. But now the time has been changed, And as a writer, we all have to say, as an activist, we all have to say that women are not a weak entity. They are strong enough to do many things. They can do more than a man can do. Like this type of message, we should deliver them so that they can understand, yeah, women has to do, women have to do, like this way. And what I think that I have to cross the boundaries, because who is there to set boundary to women, isn't it? That boundary is created by human being, and we, especially women, men also can make them aware that boundary is set by some certain person according to their, what is called that choice, according to their easiness, something like that. And we all have to cross the boundaries. While crossing the boundaries, we have to think that boundaries is harming to the women, okay? So that sort of boundaries we have to cross. Otherwise, to organize, to harmonize the society, we have to go hand in hand with the man. It means that we are not taking men as a negative body, isn't it? But sometimes men are also suffering from that patriarchal system. They are also the sufferer, okay? And you know that there is one sort of narrative that boys should not weep, boys should not cry. Why? They have also their heart. Some, you know, that the pain they have also inside. They also can feel that sort of pain, isn't it? And especially in my novel, I write, men are also suffering in that system, and they have to break by challenging that sort of issues, isn't it? They are feeling afraid. They are afraid to break that rule. What people would think of me, like that way they have that sort of what is called that fear. And especially not women and not men, but human being have to be a human being, isn't it? We have to live as a human being, that women and men both have the same feeling, same emotion, same experience, isn't it? And we have to be expressive. If we do not express, if we do not tell our story, then who will understand, isn't it? That's why we must be expressive, either men or women. In a way, we can bring the harmony, we can bring the change in our society. Yeah, I think like that way.
So what you're primarily saying is that, we have continuously not just stereotyped women but men as well, and they have to fall in that stereotype as well, and they are themselves suffering because there is a certain stereotype that they have to fit into. Mona Lisa, there is a section, and I'm sure since you write and travel and read and newspapers and social media keeps us well aware and nourished about what's happening, there's a bra burning kind of feminism that's taking place in the world. And here we see stories of the marginalized women who can't even think of, someday, standing up and talking about, because that is not the priority. Do you think the feminists of today are setting priorities which may not really fit into the so-called, they might not be the right fit for every woman?
Absolutely, because I'm not conscious as a bra burning thing in my life, because I value women. I find them very dignified. I treat them as trees. They are nourishing elements for us. So I worship women. I want everybody to understand that quality in them and to respect every woman. We don't know, even the housemaid who comes to work for us, we don't know her story. So when I write, so I write about them in such a way so that you become conscious about them, every woman. You don't have to flaunt your body and all that to prove that I'm equal or I'm more than you. I don't believe in that, because when I went to Brazil to read poems, there all these women folk, they came to me, they said, hugged me, that you are our voice, you speak for us. So what they wanted to speak for them. So they are very advanced, they are also very scantily clad, and I was wondering what is harming you. They said, we get beaten up for no rhyme and reason. So So everywhere the women are suffering because nobody really pays them attention, not even the women themselves. That is what I feel. I feel sad for the thing that we have choice. For me, any woman who accepts this, that I have a choice and makes a difference, they are the protagonist of my stories. I will speak very briefly about a small incident which is a true story, and I have written it into a story. And in the Himalayas, their 4 friends went and they spent a night because the snow was falling. They could not go out, and there was a caretaker. In the for 6 months in a year, it gets snow clad. You cannot find any help, but they had put up a small tent, and only one family with a beautiful, because they are very beautiful women. So one daughter and one father was there. And what happened, throughout the night they were contemplating that they are so poor, they can sleep with the young girl and pay her handsomely, so that she will have a very comfortable life. They were imagining, they were planning and plotting all that. In the morning, they didn't find the father and daughter. Then there was a nearby stream, and she was dishwashing there, and they went and approached her. Why you are struggling so much? We will pay you handsomely. Said, I gave you my food, my blanket, and so that you could sleep comfortably and you could have the warm food. And she didn't have to say anything. She was so firmly put on her place. She spent the night without food, without a blanket. Imagine the value she had. So she fits into my character. That means women in a very underprivileged condition also, they keep their values intact. I find them absolutely amazing.
So they are the feminists who actually, the women who keep their values intact and show strength, are the real feminists that we should be looking at.
Yes.
The last part of this segment, because I think we are running out of time and I've been indicated for so. Kanchana, how do you view the rest of the women in the world currently? There are women who are right now fighting for the basic right to uncover their faces, and as I said, there are on the other hand women who are fighting for their right to uncover their breasts, and then there are women who are struggling at this point to even get to meet to earn bread for their families. How do you in Sri Lanka, where you feel that there is a lot more equality, and while you did mention that historically probably the story was not told correctly about the women princes, but now that the situation has changed in the society and there is a lot more equality that you all experience, how do Sri Lankan women view the world and have a world view of themselves in that?
To be frank, that it means when it comes to certain women, that I find that it's women sometimes won't be confined. They have decided to be in where they are, and I would I like to respect that decision as long as they don't force others to do it.
Very pointed point made. Last quick words on how women you think should view themselves or tell the kind of stories that they should in the next decade, because we are seeing a major change happening worldwide, starting with you, Mopi.
It's a difficult question. Actually, we have so much to talk about, yet actually I really don't know what to say to that, because did Suman say this, that it is the choice of the woman, and also Kanchana said that if she decides to stay at home, it is her choice. Whatever it is, I think the word choice is very instrumental here. Whether it is a choice to be beaten up by your husband, whether it is a choice to join the Indian Army or the army in their respective country, or it is a choice to go out and fly, or it is a choice to raise kids. The important thing here is not so much a question of covering your face or burning your bra. I think it is a question of the choice that the woman is allowed to make. I think the problem, what she has to resist in the future, is if she's not allowed to carry forward her choice. She has to be, if that starts happening, she's not allowed to exercise her choice, then that gets very, very scary and unfortunately very sad. So I think that's the key thing. What she wants to do or what she doesn't want to do is later. But is she allowed to make that choice to begin with? So, and I think that differs, like all of us have spoken about, in different segments of society, in different time spaces, past, present, future, in different economic, social class. So I think it differs, from every segment to the other. And it is, things are changing everywhere, like they've changed always. In some cases rapid, in some cases slowly.
Kanchana, your views, my life, my choice, what do you think? What kind of stories should we be telling in the next decade?
Yeah, to see the women, the perspective they have developed, isn't it, should be different, because women are something more than the previous time, isn't it? So, what to say then, it is now time to raise your voice, our voice, isn't it? What we are feeling, just tell to the other, isn't it? That it is not our private matter, it is our not our personal matter, it is a political matter, it is a social matter. That's why we have to make other understand that this problem is not our only problem, it is our problem. Let's share it and let's cooperate to solve it, you and me. Like this way we have to go.
Basically, speaking up is what the next decade should be. We should speak up more. What about you, Mona Lisa? Next decade for women, how do you view, what kind of stories should we be telling?
Women should come together more, and women should also think about the marginalized women more. And so like if you want to be part of it, you become activist, even in your writing, you feel for her, women suffering anywhere, and fight for her, because you are more privileged. Whenever we are in a more privileged condition, we should really take up their issues, think of them and write about them. And we should always value women, cherish women.
So women for women is what Mona Lisa suggests. Kanchana, what about you? The next decade, what do you think women should be really doing or talking about or writing?
Lipika, in general, I would like to say that when it comes to panels like this, women talking about women, I would like to include men as well in the sessions like this, because then we can hear about their perspectives as well. And I think as we talk about women's literature, I think we must talk about how men's literature too, they should be taken into a stage like this, and we must talk about the role of the men and how they have weaved the things, how they have suffered. Those things also should be talked about. Once the issues of the patriarchal societies are solved, only the other issues can be solved smoothly. As long as we don't practice it, whatever the discussions we have, the problem will remain.
A very interesting point made, that women's when it should not just be limited to women talking about women, but we should have a man's perspective also when we are engaging in such discussions, to have a more equal and holistic view of things and come to solutions, rather than what probably when you read the topic, a lot of you who are missing here would have thought that, there'll be another set of 5 women, 6 women, cribbing about the social issues. But this has been an absolutely pleasant surprise for me, because for the first time, I feel that this discussion took place among equal women who have been giving a perspective from the real perspective from the ground, and not really talking from taking a point of place of privilege to talk about women's issues. For me, it's been a very invigorating discussion. Thank you so much, girls. I'm so happy to be part of this panel and so proud to be part of this panel. Just as parting words, what I feel and I believe in, and over the years, over the decades of my movement into womanhood, from being a young girl to being a hardcore protesting young woman to maturing into a mother today, I think women form a backbone of any family. And the family unit is kept together by a woman. And our strength, especially in South Asia, we are the set of countries who truly believe in the family system still, which is, I think the West is currently facing a huge challenge with. We don't even realize how privileged we are to have that system very much in place, with our mothers there as the backbone and we forming the backbone of the family. I think these discussions will continue, and they should continue more with very different sets of opinions coming together to make it a more fruitful discussion for even young women who are sitting in this audience to take it back. It is just not about my life, my choice alone, but there is a huge sense of responsibility also that we have been carrying for thousands of years now, and carrying it beautifully. So I think 5 strong women on this panel are going to be hopefully setting a great example for all of you here. Thank you so much for giving us a patient hearing. And since we are out of time, probably what I'll request is maybe, you can ask your questions right after, unless of course there's one quick question you have. Any one of you. So we'll take questions after the session. Thank you so much, Kalinga Literature Festival. I would like to thank Rashmi Ranjan and his entire team, and Ashok Balsar for having us here today. We look forward to the next 2 days of series of sessions that are there lined up, and see you around. Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
I would like to thank our moderator Lipika ma'am for guiding the conversation, and our panel. It was quite insightful, and we would proceed with the felicitation. I would request Lipika ma'am to felicitate our speaker.
I really want to know what they're discussing.
Yeah.